Welcome to The Growth. I am your host, Brandon Cana, and this podcast is all about helping you grow. And I'm super excited to announce my first guest, Jackson St. Amant. He is a 23-year-old entrepreneur who helps others achieve financial freedom through his financial business, Money Mastermind. And welcome, Jackson.
Hey, everybody. So excited to be on this podcast. Brandon, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'm
Um,
super excited as well. It's a super interesting time, as we all know. Today's May
yes.
1st as of the recording, and we're in the middle of some interesting times, some uncertainty, and that's really why I wanted to have you on this podcast today, because a lot of people are going through some financial tough times, and you're an expert at this, so I really wanted to get your insight and your advice on everything. But first, tell the people who you are, what you do, and how you got there.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, just a little bit of a backstory on me. I won't bore you with the whole nuts and
Yeah,
bolts of
yeah.
it, but so I am a 23-year-old, like you said, out here in California. Right now, I'm working as a financial coach. And my whole ideology, my big thing is that I'm passionate about helping people. I've been a math tutor for the last over 10 years now, helped over 100 students. But B, I'm really passionate about personal finance and specifically the ideas of financial freedom and retiring early. Um, and I realized when I looked at the sort of the path of my life that it's selfish in some sense to only go after that for myself and not sort of share that this sort of secret knowledge, almost I feel like it is, with other
Mm.
people and empower others along the way. So I started my education business, Money Mastermind, as a way to empower specifically young entrepreneurs who are going down that same path as me towards retiring early and becoming financially free.
Super cool. Yeah, super interesting. So just tell a couple hobbies that you have. Tell the people, what you're into, what do you like, just so people can get to know you a little better.
Definitely. I am left brain, like, let's say 87%. Give it 13% to the right brain. I am that numbers guy, is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. Typical math nerd. I've got, let's see, you're doing video. I've got a calculator on my desk right here.
Yep.
Um, couple of Rubik's cubes. I play
There you
chess
go.
too. So that's
Yep.
that's me in short, in a nutshell. Is my hobbies. I mean, honestly, I pour everything right now, at least during this time. I'm pouring everything into my craft, and into myself and into my growth. So as far as what I like to do for fun is just be outside. That's what I do for
Yeah.
my breaks when I can. Just take
Yeah.
walks and enjoy the nature that's still open. I mean, they took a lot of the parks away
Yeah.
temporarily, but they can't take our secret spots away. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know it's an interesting time to go outside right now. But yeah, definitely. So tell the people how'd you get into the financial world? Why'd you pick finances as your route?
definitely, that's a good question. So I professionally I was sort of immersed in it. I just finished up a little over a year in the insurance industry. And through that experience, I worked closely, like hand in hand, with a lot of financial advisors. And I realized what they were doing, like handling people's money and showing people different ways that they can maximize the opportunity that's available to them, that would, like, something about that was a lot more exciting to me than selling people insurance policies. Like, yeah, insurance is important and it has its place, but when I really sat back and thought about, okay, what motivates me, and what am I passionate about, it's more so on that finance piece and making sure that you maximize your limited resources, because that's something that personally I've always done, and it's been a big defining factor in my life, and it's the direction that I'm headed towards financial freedom. And so it's just sort of a way to help others do that.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I think it's very, very, very important right now. It's just something a lot of people need. And so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go straight into it. I mean, we're in this coronavirus, COVID-19. Uh, call it a recession, call it whatever you want. A lot of people are losing their jobs, most unemployment we've ever seen ever. I mean, if you look at that chart that just shoots straight up, it's amazing. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
crazy to look at. I just want to know, what advice do you have for people that are going through these tough times, may have lost a job or just on, less salary? What can they do to, protect themselves, protect their assets, protect their finances in this crazy time?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that's the elephant in the room right now is what do we do? And I mean, obviously, first and foremost, there's a lot of support going around in forms of stimulus
Hmm.
and checks that are coming through, SBA loans for small
Right.
businesses and stuff like that. So I would say first and foremost, everybody should be looking into what's available to them just to sort of offset the temporary pain that we're going through. And I would also add on top of that, like, one part of it is your physical condition and the like actual situation that you're in, but I would say the other side of that coin is your perspective on that situation and the
Right.
mindset that you have. And so if things are tough, I would honestly, the best advice I would give would be to focus on the way that's affecting your mentality and try to stay positive. Financially speaking, like when you really look at the numbers, maximize the support you have available to you. I mean,
Right.
if you haven't already, go talk to everybody that you owe money, like the big companies that you pay bills every month. Though it turns out, though they like our money, they don't actually really need it, and the government's really helping them out a lot right now. Whether or not you think that's a good or bad thing, it's happening, and so, like, I mean, Geico, for example, the next policy that you get is going to be 15% off and you don't have to do anything. But there are other, like, big companies are doing a lot for this time to try and help their customers. So I would say look into that but also think about your mentality. I would say those
Yeah.
are the two most important variables in how you get through this.
Yeah, that's super interesting answer you had there. I mean, mindset is huge, especially on this show. I mean, mindset can change any way you think of something and how anything is the outcome. It's huge.
Definitely.
Mindset can really change a lot in life, even if it's, the same finances we have, with just the way we look at it can really change. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's a lot of big companies I know personally. I've reached out, and a lot of people are helping out, being in the real estate space. A lot of mortgages are doing forbearances and stuff like that, so there is a lot of
Right.
options for people to look at. I know a lot of people are not even trying to look at those things, but really just get on Google and just look them up. I mean, I know there's a lot of great options out there.
Yeah,
So
or I mean, if it overwhelms you, go ask somebody who's
yeah.
done their research too, because there are plenty of resources. I mean, I made myself available as much as I can to people within my circle, but my circle
Yeah.
doesn't reach the whole world. So please find somebody else who's putting out that information. There's plenty of people who can help you out.
Right. And that's why we're doing this. So, I mean, if anyone after the show has any questions, feel free to reach out to Jackson, and he has a whole list of resources and everything that it can really help you out with. This question is much bigger than just a quick, 5-minute answer. It's way longer than that, but I just want to get his, ideas on it. So if you have, some serious questions, feel free to reach after him after the show. Um, and yeah, it's a tough time for everyone right now. So what do you do to prepare for like a time like this? So the next time we go through another recession, another winter, how do we prepare for that so we can come out better?
That's a good question. One thing that I want to make a comment on is I've seen in the financial space some content and some messaging around the ideas that, like, if you don't have an emergency fund, like, you should have had an emergency fund. You should have prepared. There's a lot of verbiage that kind of gets towards that area of like making people feel regret. I would say for not being prepared now. first of all, I would say push all of that out the window. If you aren't prepared or weren't prepared for this situation, it's okay. That's in the past. Get through with what you can,
Right.
is what I would say. But moving forward, I mean, hindsight is 2020, and that's the beautiful thing. And the theme of this podcast is we can grow from our mistakes. And so,
Yep.
if you didn't prepare this time, see it as a positive opportunity. The silver lining is that you can learn from what you did wrong this time to do better next time.
Right.
And to get specific, with what I would say you do is, first and foremost, the most important thing is to have an emergency fund. The time this happens in our economy, though it's rare, and it's a big shock, especially for our generation, because the last time this happened,
Yeah.
2008, right, 12 years ago.
Yep.
I'm 23, doing some quick math. Like, it's, you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
So it doesn't seem like it's, growing up in a bull market, it's kind of, we get a weird lens on the way the economy
Yep.
works, but this kind of puts things back into perspective, I would say.
Yep.
And the likelihood of another recession like this happening in our lifetime is very high. So I would say, make sure that before the next time this happens, you have at the very least 3 months of your income, of your expenses, your monthly expenses saved. They say like 3 to 12. It really depends on your personal situation. Some people can get away with 3. Some people need 6, 12. But the idea is just to have something that you don't touch, so that if things happen like they're happening now, you have some money to sort of act as a buffer.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really important for people to have is, everyone says, the emergency fund, but, they don't think about it when you're in the bull market. Everyone's making money. And like you said, this is our first kick in the face for our generation. We never thought this was going to happen. We've been, blessed with crazy markets.
Right.
And yeah, this is going to happen again. It's just, it's just how the market works. There's ups and downs, and super important to actually put a plan into place and, talk to someone who's going to set up a plan for you and get ready because it's going to happen again. And yeah, super important. So let's switch gears to budgeting. I know that's this huge topic that everyone's talking about right now. There's two different ways, because there's people who are on salary, and then people you help more often, the people who make commission or not regular income. And so go ahead and speak to that. And how do you think people should be budgeting in a time like this? And even when we get out of this, to prepare for, anything that might happen again. What are your couple tips for budgeting in a time like this?
That's a great question. And I think now is more timely than ever to learn how to budget. First and foremost, more generally, I'll say that the general relationship people have with budgeting, or at least my experience has been, is that a lot of people have at least tried it once or twice in the
Yeah.
past.
Yep. I know I have.
But for some reason or another aren't doing it now.
Yeah.
Right. It's very similar to dieting in that respect. I feel
Right.
like, and a lot of the reason why people fall off is like because of the misconceptions around what budgeting really is. They think it has to be really restrictive or really tedious when in reality it doesn't. And so they force themselves into this like prison of frugality with the budget, and then fall out of it. And then just like with dieting, like, oh, it's keto's fault, right? It's not mine.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to your behavior. And so I would say now with budgeting, to answer the question, really the biggest thing that you should be doing, especially if you lost your job, if your income was stopped or slowed, if say you're a business owner and finding new clients is tough right now, I'm finding myself in that boat, then budgeting is the best way to make sure that you can take the limited resources that you have now and make them as meaningful as they possibly can be for as long as they possibly can be.
Hmm.
That's sort of the game with budgeting,
Yeah.
and the game with frugality and financial minimalism is trying to maximize every dollar that we have available to use for us, to support our lifestyle, and make sure that it aligns with our priorities too. So I would say, like, right now, if you've lost your income, first off, focus on keeping the roof above your head, keeping the lights
Yeah.
on, keeping food on the table. There's a certain level, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, sort of. Right now, we're kind of brought down to the bottom, but once you're able to sustain that with your money for a couple of months, right, indefinitely, then you started leveling up. Okay, well, what would be nice to have, and then what can I afford to put away? So that's sort of the ideology that you'd want to use going into it if you want to start forming that habit. And I would say now is honestly the best time.
Yeah, totally agree. It's you got to lower your expenses in a time like this, and it's you actually got to look at what your expenses are, because I know a lot of people don't even know what that
Just
is,
don't know that number.
which
Yeah,
is scary to think about, because I'm a numbers guy too, and it's just like I got to know what I'm spending every
right.
month. Because if I don't know, I'm on commission. I don't, I'm not
Yeah,
making money every day. So
yeah.
it's an interesting
And
thing
if
to,
when you're salaried, it doesn't really matter
yeah,
if you know what your expenses are, as long as
yeah,
the lights are still on and things still work,
yeah,
your lifestyle is sustained. But now more than ever, it's important that you know what that number is and
yeah.
know what you have available to support yourself as long as
Yeah.
possible.
Okay. So let's go down this rabbit hole a little further. So
Yeah,
let's go towards more of the young entrepreneurs and the people who are on commission. They don't have to be
yeah,
young. It could be anyone, whatever age, any entrepreneur. They're making, commission or whatever. And, this time comes, and we're used to, in a bull market, we're used to, buying things on Amazon, buying the watches, buying the necklaces, buying the cars to impress all
right.
these people. I mean, it's amazing just look at the music industry, what rappers and everything, that once they start making some real money, they just
Hmm.
blow it. And I mean,
Yeah,
a couple of years later, they're bankrupt.
or
So
sooner. Yeah,
yeah, or sooner.
yeah,
Definitely. And they just, they think the shows are going to keep coming, everything's going to keep coming, but stuff like this happens. I mean, the whole world is shut down pretty much.
right.
Um, so how do you, what advice do you have for, someone who's an entrepreneur to try to avoid buying those things, or what's a plan you have to where people can, save instead of start spending on, things they really don't need?
Definitely, definitely. I would say, back to the idea of like two sides of the coin, one being the situation, one being the mindset. I would say right now, more so than ever, it's important that you have what I call a sustainability mindset. Um, and especially with the way that you think about your money. So it's very easy to fall into that glamorous, extravagant mindset, or materialistic sort of, some may say, right? And it's fair, and no shame if that's your values, if that's your beliefs. But I think it's important to be honest with yourself about that. And right now, in the current state of the market, that sort of behavior just isn't sustainable, and that's just a fact. You won't be able to support yourself continuing that lifestyle. So the brutal truth is that we're going to have to change the way that we act. And I think that the most comfortable way to make that switch is to first start with the way that we think, and to think about it, as a sustainability mindset. How do we, every choice that we make, is it sustainable? Can we continue doing that in the future, for the indefinite future, not just will I be good this month? Right?
Yeah.
So I would say most important thing, if that's sort of the area that you fall in, and the way that you think about money, then first attack the way that you think about it, and then the way you act will come.
Yeah, 100% agree. I totally think mindset's so important. So let's go down that route. Let's start talking about some mindset. What do you do every day to, get your mindset right? How do you grow every day? What is a couple things that you do? How do you learn? Is there any, things you do every day to grow?
Good question. Good question. So growth is a huge part of my life. I think that if we're not growing daily, I think you've said this before. If we're not growing, we're
Yep.
dying,
Yeah.
right?
Pretty much the motto
Um,
of the show. Yep.
well, then I'll say it again. If we're not growing, we're dying,
Yep. Yep.
right? So uh, one thing that I focus on for growth that I think is really important is my routine. Just sort
Yep.
of sticking with it. Monday through Friday is really sacred to me. Just as a business owner, I can choose to literally not do anything.
Right.
I don't have anyone telling me, but then nothing happens in the business, right? So,
Right.
so it's really important for me that I stay productive and that I also just personally am growing every day. So first off, routine. One of the things that I do every day in the morning is I meditate for 20 to 30
Nice.
minutes. Usually, like right after I wake up, I've just found that fits in perfectly for me, and
Yeah.
it really sets the clarity for the day.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm not sure about you, but and this might be something your listeners could relate to too. I used to like wake up with a lot of anxiety with like 50,000 things racing through my
Yeah.
mind of like what I could be doing today. And the reality is, if you enter your day with that mindset, with all of those thoughts, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that,
Oh yeah.
you'll A, be so distracted, and B, like probably not get any of it done,
So true. So
at,
true.
at least for me. And so I take time. I found that it's really important to dedicate at least 20, 30 minutes. It's really all you need to focus first on my breath. And then once I focused on my breath, then it's my choice of what I want to
Yeah.
focus on. And so I start listing out those thoughts and giving them attention sort of one by one. Okay, I could be doing this, but how does it relate to my goals? How does it relate to, like, does it move the needle? Does it progress me the way I would want to? And one thing that I saw, I think it was Warren Buffett who said that he lists out the top 25 things that he could do in a day, and then he circles the top five, something like that. I
That's
could be
huge. Yeah.
butchering it, but whatever it may be, I've taken that and I've started using it. And that's like sort of my mantra during my meditation is, okay, what are like the 25 things I could be doing today, and then what are the five most important?
Yeah.
Um, and then I enter my day. You can do the normal stuff, take shower, get ready, like work
Right.
out a little bit, and then sit down and do a lot of deep work. And I really try to stay focused and make sure that I'm accomplishing what's most important. And so I focus on the top five that I've picked in my meditation, but I'm satisfied with my day if I've accomplished the top three. So
Yeah.
I always shoot for the top five. And if I've accomplished the top three, it's like, okay, well, not bad. Um, and then the other part of that is, I mean, everyone's heard like you learn something new every day, right? That very common saying. I take that very meaningful, at least for myself, and I take it up to three things a day. But you have to be careful. So that's my goal. I'm satisfied if I've accomplished the top three and if I've learned three new things. That's a
Three new
beautiful.
things. Yeah. One goal I always had was learn something new every day. I mean, you usually kind of do learn something new every day, but
Right.
purposely go out of your way to learn something new. And
Yeah.
that's huge. I think the thing you were talking about, the routine, I mean, that changed my whole entire life. I mean, being a
Yeah.
entrepreneur myself, I wake up like I can work on whatever I want today. Let's do
Right.
this, and then it's like you don't get anything done. You don't get the most important thing done. One saying, I don't remember where I heard it from, but the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And that's just playing off what
Mm,
you said is just, you really want to do what you really need to do to, help your business or whatever you're doing. You want to do that top productive thing. And there's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. He's a real estate guy, and super great book for anyone who wants to learn how to focus on one thing a day and then move on to the next important thing. That's a huge book to listen to. It's super short. I think the audio book's like an hour or two. So I mean, super short book. That's one I would recommend definitely. Um, and to
you
speak to
got
the
me sold.
routine, thing. Um,
Yeah.
my morning and my night caps are just, those are two sacred things I have to have no matter what. They have to be the same every day. Um, wake up, affirmations, mine personally is going to the gym and just forgetting about the world, forgetting about business. Do not mix business
There we
and,
go.
when you work out or whatever you want to do in the morning, don't mix those two,
Right.
because you're not going to get it. You're not going to have a good workout or meditation or anything. Because you
Hmm.
got to keep everything separate. And once we go to work, we got to
And you're
focus
going
on
to have
work.
a lot less, when you do get to work, you'll have a lot less mental power left over because you
Right.
wasted half of it while you're working out
100%
too.
agree.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% agree in everything you're saying. And I just want to know from you, how do you define success?
That's a wow. Okay. What a simple question, but what a complicated one at the
There's
same
a couple
time.
ways to answer it, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, when I think of success, the most important thing is in relation to my goals. So I am huge with goal setting, and as far as like being growth oriented, it's all in the direction of goals. And the way I see it is I have my top goal up here being financially free, right? And retiring early. That's the motivator that drives everything. And from there, it's almost like a tree or like a root system, right? That sort of just comes down and all of these little different sub goals start to form. And
mhm,
I'm somewhere down here in the dirt, right? And
right.
I'm sort of trying to find my way through this root system and accomplish these goals, and constantly have to check in. Is this the right way? Am I still going towards this goal? Right. And so I would say that I would define success as accomplishing and like staying on the right trajectory towards your goals. And even if it's just accomplishing a little goal, as long as it's concretely getting you one step closer to the big driving overall goal, then that's a success.
Yeah. Yeah, I could tell. So what we call it in our real estate company, we call it your big why. What's your big why? The one at the top.
Yeah.
And so your big why drives everything. It could be family, money, whatever it is. And for you, it's
Yeah.
financial freedom. And that's huge that you can focus on one thing, call it your big why. And this is what I'm going after every single day. And then you set sub goals to achieve that top final thing. And yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, goal setting is so huge. You can't really get anything done unless you know what you're trying to go after, right? So
Right.
yeah, goal setting is a huge thing. And yeah, so on top of that, I mean, what makes you get out of bed every day? Like what motivates you and keeps pushing yourself through tough times? Like right now, we're going through some tough times. What motivates you?
Yeah, that couple things that motivate me. I mean, biggest one is the overall idea of being financially free.
Yeah,
I know that I can do it. Um, I know that it's attainable. I have seen it be attained by countless other people. I've read books and detailed tutorials of how they've done it, right? So I would say, just for me personally, knowing that I'm working towards that idea of financial freedom is what gets me up. But that's only half the story, because I'm huge on lateral growth. Like, the reason why I do what I do is I want to lift up as many people who are around the same level as me as I can. It's that sort of mentality of like a rising tide lifts all boats,
right.
right? I feel like it's a lot more, and also on sustainability, it's a lot more sustainable to create a network or to create a generation, a movement, whatever you want to call it, right? That is moving towards financial freedom. I think being able to make something that's greater than myself, like create a legacy, something that my kids' generation and my grandkids, their kids, those generations, it might come in a different form, but I want it to still
Yeah,
be around. That idea of being financially educated, I think, is really important, and I think it's a shame that our society doesn't talk more about it. So what motivates me is just kind of being able to build up that part of our society,
yeah,
and I see concrete progress and evidence that I'm doing that every day, which is exciting.
yeah. That's huge. I completely agree. I'm the same exact way, and we're so similar. I mean, we have the same ideology about a lot of different things. So Yeah, that
Oh
is
yeah.
huge. I hope everyone heard that and they can replay that a couple times because that's huge. Um, and yeah, I just want to go into a couple things throughout your career. I mean, like, what's the biggest thing you've learned? I mean, we all fail, we make mistakes. What's the biggest thing you've learned so far in your career?
Ooh. So biggest lesson overall in this is in my life, and I think your listeners will relate to this, is giving too much weight giving too much weight to the perspective, the thoughts, the opinions that society, my parents, external forces had on my own life and my own direction, um, giving more weight to those factors than I gave to myself. I think that was the biggest mistake and the biggest lesson that I've
Mm,
learned, is that I need to focus on what is most important to me in order to be able to be in a position to help other people. So I would say that honestly, the biggest lesson I've learned, and that's been a big part of my life. I mean, I didn't tell this in the backstory, but I did 3 years of college, and that was all undergrad, engineering, math, and that was all because my parents wanted me to be an engineer. And because I thought society would be happy, I thought that was the way that things work. But in the back of my mind, I knew something was different. And so I moved up to Oregon and took a gap year, still wearing the sweatshirt and
there you go.
representing. Took a gap year up there and to really figure myself out. And I realized that's not the path for me, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I think that's huge. I mean, a lot of people, society pressures so many different people to do so many different things. I know endless amount of friends who went to college, got their degree. They don't even use their degree anymore. But I mean, they got
right.
the education, but it's really up to you. It's you have to be happy in what you do and everything in life, because if you don't have that, I mean, it doesn't really matter anything, how much money you make, anything. If you're not happy, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So really figuring out what makes you happy and what drives you is, yeah, that's huge. um and yeah, I think that's huge. So just a couple of last questions here. I mean, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? Do you think you're going to be retired, or what's the plan in about 10 years?
So right now, I am projecting between 30 and 35 that I'll be fully retired.
Nice.
Given I'm 23, hopefully in 10 years I'll be retired free, or financially free and retired early.
Yeah.
But the way I see that, like to get more specific, because that's super general.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is what I see financial freedom as, or retiring early, is making work become an option as opposed to a necessity.
Right.
So like I'm super passionate about what I do, and I would define myself as retired once I don't have to work, once I can sustain my lifestyle, travel, live life completely on my own terms without having to work. There are income sources like my rental properties and whatnot are supporting that lifestyle.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that I won't. I honestly see myself giving speeches, like I want to do big like keynote stuff. Like I don't want to directly follow Gary Vee's tracks, but I want to make a movement,
Yep.
honestly. And even if that means like accepting speaking gigs for like a high school class that pays like $20 for the day, like I would do that, right? Because I would be in a position that I could accept that for the full day, and it would make me happy that I'm helping this class full of 20 high school students.
Yeah.
So that's where I see myself in 10 years, is having work be a choice, but still doing it because I love it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. 100% agree. I want to put as much work as I can right now, every single day, put as much as I possibly can, pedal to the metal, shall we say. And, 10 years or so, I just want to have the option of working, I'm
Yeah.
always going to help people just like you. We're always going to help people, until we die, really. That's
Yeah.
just how we are. It's just how we're bred. And, but it's really the option of, do we have to go to work today? Maybe I don't have to. I don't have to make money today because I know I'm going to have that income coming in anyways. Um,
Right.
it's more of just the helping the others at that point. Um, And yeah, so to help our listeners out, what's one thing you wish you had known when you started out on your journey here? Just so you could give a little advice through. I know it's similar to their question, but what's one piece of advice you give to someone starting out as an entrepreneur?
Someone starting out as an entrepreneur, I don't want it to be the exact same answer, but I would just say honestly, like, be true to yourself. As cliche as it is, be true to yourself and learn from your mistakes.
Yeah,
The those I wanna it's sort of like a package deal, those two things. Because I mean, tying into like a lot of people sort of fall down that path of doing things for other people and not themselves. It's only natural. I think that the earlier, for the listeners, I think that the earlier you realize that the game is to first focus on what's more important to you, to be in a position to help other people. Once you realize that, um, and the earlier you realize that, the better off you'll be, and the better position I think you'll be in.
yeah,
Honestly, that's what I would say, is just be true to yourself and then learn from your mistakes, because it's only natural that we're gonna mess up. I remember in high school, actually, I remember I was one of those people who was super, super hard on myself whenever I made a mistake. Like, excessively, for little stuff. Like, I would trip, like, I would walk inside and I would trip a little bit, and someone would see and my face would get all red, and I'd be like, you stupid, like, don't even know how to walk, you know. Um, like, seriously though.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then with the more important stuff too, when it comes to like, am I a success, am I a failure? If you make a mistake, it can come down to, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or it's easy to get really hard on yourself. But I would say that the most important thing, once you've realized that you're true to yourself, is view every mistake that comes your way, every obstacle, roadblock, as an opportunity. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. And I think as long as, like, they are steps back in our journey, right? Like, we're walking down this path metaphorically, and a mistake is a step back. But you have choices, as long as you're making 2 steps forward for every step back, or a couple steps back, but you choose to make 3 steps forward, right? As long as you are having that perspective, that positive perspective on the mistakes, then you'll
right.
stay progressing, and you'll be doing it for the right reasons too, because you'll be staying true to yourself.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Failure is the best way to learn from anything, really. I mean, that's how entrepreneurs learn. They gotta
Oh
fail
yeah.
and fail and fail. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's the huge lesson of entrepreneurship is people will learn, and it will be tough. And we're going through tough times right now. And I just want to get your final thought on what is a common myth people have around finances. I'm sure there's a bunch of them you can probably pick out, but what's one myth you can pick out and debunk for us so you can help everyone else listening here?
All right. This is a good one. First off, I need to say that I'm not a registered financial advisor. Not read Can't give you specific investment advice, but I will say that the biggest misconception is that investing in the stock market is a scam or it's too risky. I would
Mm,
say that ideology, for some reason, has found its way into our generation, and it decays at the opportunity we have, just from a pure statistical standpoint, like looking at compound interest, looking
yep.
at the way the S&P has performed historically. Like, 10% is the average. Take out 3% for inflation, on average, you will make 7% being invested in the stock market. So I think as long as you have that long term, like, if you were going to retire in March of 2020, right, and you were fully invested in the stock market, then maybe you had to wait a little bit,
Yeah,
But in general, the money does grow that way. So I think the biggest misconception is people shy away from learning about that stuff or having their money in there because they think it's too risky. And yes, there is potential to lose. So obviously, before you put your money anywhere, do your own research. And
Yeah.
and I think it's good to have that mentality of like, once you've invested money, you've pretty much lost it already, right? Like, it's dead to you once you put it into that fund, and then it's exciting if it blows up. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is people are too scared of the stock market. But on the point of growth, like, if you fear it, then that means that it's something you should do. That
Yeah.
means it's
Yeah.
something you should learn about. At least that's my
100%.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you fear, you should do. I love that. I love that. I'm definitely gonna save that, because that is I've heard that quote before, but you just saying that is just, it reminds me of everything that I didn't want to do throughout my, career, and I finally did it. And it's just like, I look back now, it's like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Um, that's
Yeah.
huge.
There's an old saying, I think it's the treasure is in the cave that you seek to enter.
Yes.
Same concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think when you have that feeling, it means you're doing something right.
Yeah. The cave's dark and you don't know what's in there, and you're scared. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
And on the point of the stock market, yeah, I think our whole generation, I think, because when they saw Bitcoin and everything, and there's a lot of Forex people that message you and say, hey, invest in. So I think through Instagram and stuff, people got beat down through like
Right.
like so many different people trying to scam each other, that they're like, all right, stock market is, I don't want to do that. Like, people do that in every industry. So I mean, real estate, anything. So it's just, do your research when it comes to the stock market. uh, Google compound interest, because that is one of the most amazing things you'll ever learn about. There's a couple of great YouTube videos on it. I know I've been blown away when I first learned about it. um, Also, Warren Buffett has a documentary, super interesting, how
Yeah.
he created his wealth and everything. He has an amazing story. And yeah, that guy is, he made a good amount of money for himself through
I would say
compound
so.
interest. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to learn from one of the best, I definitely recommend watching that documentary. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some, roundup questions, super quick. Just answer them as fast as you can. This I didn't give you these questions, so you don't really have any idea what they are. But
All right.
here we go.
Let's
So
do it. So is this like speed fire? You're just gonna keep doing questions, and I just
well,
have
you
to
just
answer.
I mean, you can have as much time as you want, but just quickly end the show. Um, top
Okay,
three
I got you.
top three people in your life that help shape you.
My mother, my father, and my girlfriend.
Awesome. If you could have anything in the world right now, what would it be?
If I could have anything in the world,
Yeah,
financial freedom, dude.
there you
Obviously.
go. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
Real estate.
Really? I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, what are you not very good at?
Anything that requires the right side of my head. So like
There you go.
art, creative, like writing. I hated essays and like stuff like that. English class.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same way. What was one piece of advice you want to leave the audience with today? Take as much time as you want with that.
One piece of advice that okay that I didn't touch on here. Here's one. When it comes to investing, best place that you can put your money, best possible return you could get, and I'm talking infinite ROI, is invest in yourself. It's
Right.
cheesy, but invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And with growth, with books, hire a coach, take a course, whatever you need, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% agree. All right, Jackson. I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I think people are gonna love this episode. I think it's gonna blow up. I think people got a lot of really good golden nuggets from this. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. And if anyone wants to reach out to him, I will have his Instagram and LinkedIn in the description. And yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Hey man, thank you. I really appreciate it.
All
Take
right, man.
care.
I'll see you next time.
Peace.
All right.
Sweet man.